The cave grew silent again, but this silence felt different. Not dangerous. Not tense. It felt heavy. Like the jungle itself knew a secret Ethan was about to uncover. The wild woman stood still near the entrance, her chest rising and falling slowly after the fight. Ethan watched her, trying to understand the strange connection forming between them, something deeper than survival, something older than fear. She was powerful, deadly, unstoppable, yet with him, she acted gentle, careful, even protective. Why? Ethan felt the answer was hidden in this cave. He ran his hand over the glowing symbols covering the walls. They were carved with purpose, lines, circles, shapes that seemed to match the same strange markings on the wild woman's skin. When he moved his fingers across them, the symbols lit up brighter, almost calling to him. Ethan, one of his team whispered, "This place, it feels alive." Ethan nodded. "It's not just a cave," he said. "It's part of something much bigger." The wild woman slowly walked toward the deepest part of the cave, her movements calm and strangely graceful. Ethan followed her. She didn't stop him. She wanted him to follow, almost guiding him like she had been waiting for this moment. At the back of the cave, they reached a large stone door, shaped like ancient technology, half nature, half machine. Vines covered the edges, but the center had a round symbol matching the pattern that glowed on her skin. The wild woman placed her hand on it. The door responded. Light spread across the stone like waking veins. Rumbles shook the cave floor. The heavy door slid open, revealing a hidden room behind it. Ethan's breath caught. Inside was not stone. Not vines. Not jungle. It was an old laboratory. Destroyed, buried, forgotten, but undeniably a lab. Glass tanks cracked and empty. Strange glowing liquid spilled across the floor. Metal arms rusted and broken. And everywhere, holographic screens flickering weakly, like dying memories. Ethan stepped inside slowly. His heart pounded hard. This was the truth. This was her past. The wild woman walked to the center of the room. She touched a broken console with shaking fingers. Her glowing markings pulsed softly. She remembered this place. Ethan whispered, "She wasn't born wild, she was made wild." His team exchanged shocked looks. A weak hologram flickered to life in front of them, showing scientists in dark uniforms, forcing a young alien woman into a metal chamber. She looked fragile, scared, innocent. Not a warrior. Not a monster. Ethan's eyes widened. "That's her," he whispered. The hologram continued. Subject 09. Enhanced through neural rewiring and primal awakening protocols. Extreme strength, extreme reflexes, extreme aggression. All emotional memory suppressed. Ethan felt sick. They didn't create her, they destroyed her. The wild woman suddenly grabbed the console and crushed it with her bare hands. Her body shook with rage. Her teeth clenched. Her breath grew wild and broken. She hit the metal table, smashing it in two. Years of pain were inside her. Years of torture. Years of loneliness. Ethan rushed forward and caught her shoulders gently. Hey, stop," he said softly. She froze, chest heaving. Her glowing eyes slowly lifted to meet his. For a moment. She looked like she was drowning in memories she didn't want. Ethan didn't let go. He held her steady. "It wasn't your fault," he whispered. "They did this to you." Her eyes softened, a deep sadness shining inside them. She wasn't angry at Ethan. She was angry at what she had become. Angry at the life stolen from her. Angry at the monsters who turned her into a weapon. She lowered her forehead gently against Ethan's chest, a silent cry, a silent plea. Ethan placed a hand on her back, slow and careful. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm not leaving you." Her body shivered, not from fear, but from relief, like no one had ever touched her gently before. Then the hologram changed again. This time it showed something worse. An implant. A small metal device forced into the back of her neck. Neural control unit. It controlled her emotions. Her pain. Her rage. Her instincts. Ethan's voice tightened. They used this to keep her angry, to keep her violent, so she would stay a weapon. The wild woman touched the back of her neck slowly, as if understanding why her head always ached, why she felt controlled, why she never felt fully free. Ethan stepped behind her and looked closely. The implant was still there, hidden under her skin, glowing faintly. "We can remove it," Ethan whispered. She froze. Her breath stopped. Her eyes widened with fear and hope. She touched Ethan's hand gently. She understood him. She trusted him. But before they could act, an alarm activated inside the lab. A message appeared on the last working hologram. Recovery team dispatched. Retrieve subject 09. Kill all unauthorized lifeforms. Ethan's blood went cold. The Empire was coming. The wild woman's markings glowed brighter. Her rage rose again, but not wild rage this time, not blind fury. This rage was focused. Sharp. Controlled. Ethan placed his hand on her shoulder again. "We will fight together," he said. For the first time, she nodded without hesitation. Something impossible was happening between them, trust, connection, a bond the Empire never expected. A bond stronger than her programming. Stronger than fear. Ethan looked at her, and she looked back at him with new eyes. Not as a weapon. Not as a creature. But as someone who finally found a reason to fight for something real. For him. The jungle stayed completely quiet after the battle, as if the entire world was holding its breath. Ethan stood frozen, amazed by what he had just witnessed. The wild woman had fought with incredible speed, strength, and precision. She didn't fight like a monster, she fought like someone trained long ago, someone who remembered every strike even after years in the jungle. But the strangest part was not her power. It was the way she kept looking only at Ethan. Like he was the first thing she recognized in a very long time. His team moved slowly, afraid to even breathe loudly. "Ethan," one of them whispered. "She saved you. You. Not us." Ethan didn't answer. He didn't understand it either. The wild woman stepped closer again, her glowing eyes locked onto his. Ethan noticed a faint trembling in her hands. She wasn't afraid of the hunters, but she seemed scared of him leaving. She pointed at the forest, then at Ethan's chest, then at herself. Ethan understood the message. "Stay close. Don't go far." Before he could speak, a loud crack echoed through the trees. Not a natural sound. A mechanical one. Scanning drones. Ethan's face hardened. "They're coming," he whispered. The alien empire had found out the humans were in the jungle. Ethan knew those drones. Cold metal spheres floated through the trees, red lights blinking as they scanned every surface. They belonged to the same empire that had created this wild creature. The wild woman's entire body tensed. She hated those machines. Ethan could feel the anger rising inside her like fire under her skin. One drone aimed a laser at Ethan's chest. The wild woman jumped in front of him instantly, claws extended, teeth clenched. She didn't care about herself. She cared only about protecting him. "Get behind me," Ethan said softly. But she didn't move. Instead, she placed her hand on his shoulder, pushing him gently back. She wanted him to stay behind her. Then she attacked. Her body became a blur. She leaped onto the first drone, crushing it with her bare hands. Metal parts scattered everywhere. She swung into the second, smashing it into a tree. A third drone tried to escape, but she grabbed it mid-air and tore it apart with unbelievable strength. Ethan watched in shock. She wasn't a monster. She was a shield. When the drones were destroyed, she turned back to Ethan. Her chest was rising and falling fast. Not from exhaustion, but from fear. She was afraid they would take Ethan away. Ethan took a slow step forward, raising both hands peacefully. "It's okay," he said. "I'm not leaving." Her eyes softened again. For a moment, she looked almost human, tired, hurt, but hopeful. Then something unexpected happened. A sharp beep echoed from inside the jungle. A hidden signal. A warning. Ethan's wrist monitor flashed red. "Multiple heat signatures," he said. "More hunters. Too many." And this time, they weren't here for her. They were here for Ethan. The wild woman growled, a low, dangerous sound that vibrated through the ground. She grabbed Ethan's wrist, pulling him deeper into the jungle with surprising gentleness. She wanted him safe. She wanted him hidden. His team followed quickly, but the forest grew darker, thicker, harder to navigate. The wild woman moved like she knew every leaf and every shadow. She led them to a hidden cave covered in vines. It was deep, quiet, and strangely warm. But it wasn't empty. Inside the cave, hundreds of old markings covered the walls, symbols drawn with glowing dust. Ethan touched one. It felt familiar, almost like it matched the patterns glowing on the wild woman's skin. "She lived here," Ethan whispered. The wild woman stepped beside him, placing her palm against the markings. The symbols lit up brighter, as if responding to her touch. Ethan's team stared, terrified yet amazed. "What is she?" one whispered. Ethan answered quietly, "Something made, something changed, but not something evil." Suddenly, everything grew silent. The wild woman stepped closer to Ethan. She raised her hand slowly. And gently touched his face. Her fingers were warm. Soft. Not violent. Not wild. She looked straight into his eyes, and Ethan felt a strange sadness inside her. She didn't want him to be afraid of her. She didn't want to be alone anymore. But before Ethan could speak, the cave shook. An explosion outside. Hunters were closing in. The wild woman turned toward the entrance. Her body shifted again, softness fading, replaced by fierce determination. She was ready to fight for him. To protect him. To die for him if she had to. Ethan grabbed her arm gently. "We fight together," he said. For the first time ever, she didn't pull away. She nodded, small, but clear. A sound came from her throat. Almost like a whisper. Not a word. But a feeling. Trust. The cave entrance burst open. Alien hunters stormed inside with plasma nets. The wild woman pushed Ethan behind a stone pillar and launched forward with explosive speed. She slammed into the first group, ripping their nets apart. Ethan fired his pulse rifle to support her. His team joined, firing from cover. It became a perfect battle rhythm. Her strength. His strategy. Their combined will. When the final hunter dropped, the jungle fell silent once more. The wild woman turned to Ethan, breathing hard. Her eyes weren't fierce now, they were filled with something deeper. She reached toward him again. Not to control him. But to make sure he was safe. Ethan placed his hand over hers. "You saved me," he whispered. Her eyes softened. But deep inside, Ethan understood something important. She didn't save everyone. She saved only him. And that meant something impossible, something dangerous, something powerful was growing between them. The Forbidden Zone was a place no one wanted to enter, not even the bravest soldiers or the strongest alien hunters. It was a huge jungle planet full of strange sounds, thick mist, and ancient ruins that even star maps refused to show. The trees were so tall that sunlight barely touched the ground, and the air felt heavy with danger, like the entire jungle was watching every step a visitor took. For years, one name created fear across many star systems: the Wild Woman. Some called her a monster, some called her a weapon, but no one really knew what she was. Every hunter who tried to capture her returned in pieces, terrified out of their minds. Many teams never returned at all. Rumors said she moved faster than any creature alive, climbed walls like a shadow, and could crush metal armor with her bare hands. But the strangest rumor was this: she never used a single word. No scream, no threat, no warning. Only silence, and destruction. This wild creature ruled the jungle like a queen of chaos. Every alien empire wanted her, but no one could get near her. And now, for the first time ever, a human was entering the forbidden zone. His name was Ethan Ward, a calm, disciplined man with sharp eyes and a steady voice. He had survived battles, storms, and war zones, but even he felt something different about this mission. His team of 4 humans stepped out of their dropship, slowly moving through the thick green mist. The ground was soft and wet, and strange glowing insects floated around them like small stars. The air felt alive, almost breathing. "Keep your scanners ready," Ethan said softly, even though he knew scanners would fail here. They always did. One of his team members whispered, "You think the Wild Woman is real?" Ethan looked at the dark jungle around them. "She's real," he said. "And she's watching us already." No one laughed. Everyone felt the same pressure in their chest. Every few steps, they heard distant cracks, branches breaking, leaves shaking, but no creature appeared. The silence was scarier than any sound. After an hour of exploring, they reached an old stone ruin covered in vines. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls. The place felt ancient, older than any empire in the galaxy. Ethan walked closer, touching one of the symbols. It lit up under his hand. "Someone wants us to see this," he whispered. Then, everything changed in 1 second. A loud roar ripped through the jungle, not from an animal, not from a beast, but from pure force. The ground trembled, birds flew out of the trees, and every team member grabbed their weapons. "She's coming," Ethan said. Leaves fell from above. Branches snapped. A blur moved through the trees, fast, silent, deadly. Ethan stepped forward instead of backward. He wanted to see her with his own eyes. And then, she appeared. She dropped from a high tree branch and landed right in front of him like a thunderbolt. Her feet hit the ground with a shockwave of dust. She was tall, powerful, and wild beyond anything they expected. Her hair was long and tangled like dark vines. Her skin had strange glowing patterns, like ancient symbols burned into her body. Her golden eyes locked onto Ethan's face, sharp and bright like a predator deciding if he should live or die. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She only stared at him, hard, intense, almost confused. Ethan didn't raise his gun. He didn't run. He slowly lifted his empty hands. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. His team stayed frozen. If she attacked, none of them would survive. But she didn't attack. She took one slow step closer, sniffed the air gently like some ancient creature studying its prey. Her glowing eyes softened for a moment. Something about Ethan made her pause. The jungle became completely silent, as if it was waiting for her decision. Her breath was slow and deep. Ethan noticed scars on her arms, old scars, deep ones. Someone had tortured her, changed her, made her into something powerful and broken. Suddenly, a sharp metal arrow shot from the trees, aimed at Ethan. Someone else was here. Hunters. Before Ethan could react, the Wild Woman moved so fast that Ethan barely saw her. She grabbed him by the arm and pulled him aside with shocking strength. The arrow slammed into the stone wall behind them. His team gasped. She didn't save them. She saved only him. Hunters rushed out of the jungle, 3 alien warriors with electric nets. One shouted, "Capture the woman. Kill the human." The wild woman's body tightened. Her eyes flashed with rage. She leapt at them with terrifying force. Her hands tore their weapons apart like paper. She smashed one alien into a tree, flipped another upside down, and crushed the last one under her knee. The fight was brutal, fast, and deadly. Then silence returned. She turned back to Ethan. Blood on her arms, breathing heavy. But her eyes were gentle again. She stepped close, so close Ethan could feel her breath. She touched his chest with the tip of her fingers. Soft. Curious. Afraid. The team held their breath. This was the first time she ever allowed anyone near her. Ethan whispered, why me?" She didn't answer. But her eyes told the truth. She wasn't wild by choice. She was lonely. Lost. Broken. Searching for someone who didn't fear her. And for some mysterious reason, she chose him. The warning alarm inside the ruined lab kept echoing, its red lights flashing across the dark walls. The wild woman stood in the center of the broken room, her breathing deep and slow, like a storm waiting to explode. Ethan felt the temperature change around them, the jungle seemed to grow colder, the air thick with danger. His team checked their weapons quickly. "What now?" one whispered. Ethan looked at the wild woman. Her glowing markings pulsed like fire under her skin. She had stopped trembling. She had stopped running. She had accepted something inside herself. She was ready to fight, not like a weapon created by the Empire, but like a warrior who chose her own path. Ethan said quietly, "They're coming for her. And for us." The wild woman stepped toward him with silent, determined footsteps. She touched his chest gently, just for a moment, and then turned toward the jungle with a fierce expression. She wasn't afraid. She was angry. Ethan understood. "We stand together," he said. She nodded with slow, steady confidence. The ground shook. A deep rumble rolled across the forest floor. Bushes trembled. Leaves fell from branches. The trees shook violently as something heavy landed outside the cave. Then another. And another. His team panicked. "Those are dropships," one said. "Heavy ones." Ethan gripped his rifle and moved toward the entrance. The wild woman walked beside him, her posture straight, her eyes glowing with golden fire. When they stepped outside, the sky was no longer dark, it was filled with the burning red glow of alien warships descending through the jungle canopy. Metal pods crashed into the ground, splitting open to reveal armored soldiers with plasma rifles and electric nets. Hundreds of them. The Empire wasn't here to capture. The Empire was here to erase everything. By order of the High Command, one of the soldiers shouted, "Recover Subject 09 and terminate all humans." The wild woman growled, a deep, animalistic sound that shook the trees. But this time, the growl wasn't from fear. It was a warning. Ethan stepped in front of her. "She's not your weapon anymore," he said. "You have no right." The soldier fired. A plasma bolt shot straight toward Ethan's heart. The wild woman moved faster than human eyes could track. She grabbed Ethan by the waist and spun, her body shielding him completely. The blast hit her back, exploding into sparks. Her skin burned, but she didn't fall. Instead, she stood taller. The light of the blast reflected in her angry golden eyes. She snarled, baring sharp teeth. Then she attacked. She launched into the air with a roar so powerful the soldiers stumbled backward. She crashed into the first squad, ripping their rifles apart. She slammed 2 soldiers into each other, sending sparks across the jungle floor. Ethan and his team took cover behind a large root. They fired from the side, supporting her as best they could. But Ethan couldn't stop watching her. Every leap, every strike, every movement had a strange beauty, wild yet controlled, violent yet meaningful. She wasn't fighting to survive. She was fighting to protect him. A massive mech unit stepped forward from the smoke, 3 times taller than her, with a giant cannon on its arm. It aimed directly at Ethan. The wild woman saw it. She screamed, a sound filled with fear, rage, and something deeper. She ran, sprinting faster than any machine, and jumped onto the mech's arm as the cannon fired. The blast scorched the ground where Ethan had stood a split second earlier. She clawed into the mech, ripping metal apart with bare hands. Sparks flew as she tore into its core. The mech exploded behind her, sending shockwaves across the clearing. But she didn't stop. She landed on her feet, sliding across the dirt, eyes locked onto Ethan to make sure he was safe. He felt it again. The connection between them. The strange trust. The impossible bond. More soldiers rushed in. Ethan's team fought hard but was pushed back. Plasma blasts scorched the trees. Smoke filled the air. The roar of more ships echoed across the sky. Ethan, one of his team yelled. "We can't hold them." He looked at the wild woman. Her body was bleeding. Her markings flickered weakly. But she kept fighting, refusing to fall. She looked back at him. Her expression desperate. Pleading for him to survive. Then Ethan saw it. A glowing ancient device near the ruins, the same technology used inside the lab. A circular stone structure humming with hidden power. He understood instantly. If activated, it could disable any mechanical tech nearby. "Come with me," Ethan shouted. He sprinted toward the device. The wild woman hesitated only for a heartbeat before running after him, deflecting blasts with her body and knocking soldiers aside. Together they reached the stone circle. Ethan placed both hands on the center panel. Nothing happened. He looked at the wild woman desperately. "Help me." She stepped beside him. Her glowing hand touched his. The device responded instantly. Light exploded outward in a massive wave. Silent, bright, unstoppable. The shockwave rippled across the jungle, passing through trees and machines. Every enemy weapon shut down. Drones crashed. The dropships fell powerless. Soldiers' rifles sparked and died. Every engine went silent. The Empire's entire attack was crushed by ancient power and one human-alien bond. The wild woman staggered. The energy wave drained her strength. She fell forward. Ethan caught her in his arms. Her breathing was weak, but she was alive. He gently brushed dirt from her face. "You saved us," he whispered. Her fingers curled around his shirt, holding him close, even as her eyes fluttered shut. The battle was over. But the war was just beginning. And Ethan understood one thing clearly. She wasn't a wild woman anymore. She was a free warrior. And she had chosen him. The jungle was quiet again, but it wasn't the same silence as before. This silence felt earned, like the land itself was finally resting after centuries of suffering. Smoke curled through the trees. The ground was filled with broken metal, silent drones, and fallen war machines. The Empire's attack force, once terrifying, lay powerless across the forest floor. And in the center of it all, Ethan held the wild woman in his arms. Her breathing was soft, shallow, but steady. Her skin was warm against him, her glowing markings dim but still alive. Ethan gently brushed her tangled hair aside, his heart pounding with worry. "Stay with me," he whispered. "You're free now. Don't leave me." Her eyelids fluttered, and she looked up at him with tired golden eyes. Eyes that were no longer wild, but full of trust. A soft sound escaped her throat, not a growl, not a threat, but something fragile, something like a whisper of hope. Ethan's chest tightened. She was trying to speak. trying to communicate with him in the only way she knew. He held her closer. "You're safe," he said. "I promise." The jungle wind wrapped around them gently, carrying away the smoke and the fear. Behind Ethan, his team slowly approached, weapons lowered, faces filled with shock and awe. None of them had expected the Empire's army to fall. None of them had expected the wild woman to fight for them, for Ethan. "She saved us," one teammate whispered. "She saved you." Ethan nodded silently. He already knew. But trouble wasn't over. A deep buzzing sound echoed from above. A new fleet was arriving, bigger, heavier, more prepared. The Empire wasn't ready to accept defeat. Dropships shaped like metal claws broke through the clouds. Hundreds more soldiers were preparing to land. Ethan stood slowly, still holding the wild woman against his chest. He looked at the giant ancient device behind them, the one they had activated together. A final idea sparked in his mind. He whispered to her, "Can you help me, one last time?" Her fingers tightened weakly on his shirt. She looked up at him and nodded. Not because she wanted to fight, but because she wanted him safe. Ethan placed her hand onto the glowing stone panel again. He placed his hand on top of hers. The device, old and half-broken, hummed with ancient power. Light gathered at its center. Ethan shouted to his team, "Get behind the ruins." Now. They ran. Above them, the Empire's new troops aimed their weapons. Blasters and cannons glowed, preparing to fire. The device released a burst of bright energy. But this time, it was different. It wasn't a disabling pulse. It wasn't a shockwave. It was a blast of light that rose into the sky like a beacon, sending a message across the galaxy. A message only ancient technology could send. A message calling for whoever originally built this jungle, whoever protected it long before the Empire existed. A message saying, "We need help." The sky flickered. Clouds twisted. Stars shimmered. Then, a distant roar echoed. Not from the jungle. Not from the Empire. From the sky. Huge shapes appeared in orbit, ships unlike anything the humans or Empire had ever seen. Sleek metal covered in vines. Engines glowing green like living suns. Creatures made of energy flying beside them like guardians. The ancestors of this jungle. The original protectors. The creators of the ancient device. They had finally answered. The Empire panicked. Their ships tried to flee, but the sky filled with vines of light, wrapping around them like cosmic roots sucking the life from dead soil. Engines shut down. Cannons melted. Dropships fell apart. Within minutes, the Empire's fleet was gone. The jungle creators looked down with glowing eyes. And then, silently, they disappeared into the stars again. The entire galaxy watched the recorded transmission of how it happened. Billions saw the truth spread across news systems. A human man and a broken alien woman fought an empire together. A bond stronger than any weapon. A connection no one could explain. A partnership that awakened ancient powers. Ethan held the wild woman as the last enemy ship fell. He lowered her gently onto soft moss. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved all of us." Her golden eyes softened. For the first time since she became a weapon. She looked at peace. She raised a trembling hand toward his face. Ethan leaned closer. Her fingers touched his cheek, warm, gentle, full of something she had never been allowed to feel. Then she whispered her first real word in years, soft and broken, but clear. "Ethan." He froze. She knew his name. She remembered him. She chose him. He held her close, his voice shaking. "I'm right here." She rested her forehead against his chest. Her markings glowed brighter, calm, warm, alive. She was no longer the wild woman. She was a survivor. A warrior. A free soul. And the galaxy would forever remember the moment she reached for a human. And the human held her close.